starts because
How
it
do I
starts
look,
and it's
man?
live streaming now. It's
Yeah.
live streaming now, but uh, can you see me? Can you hear me?
I, I can hear you. I can see you.
All right. So what I've discovered is as this posts to my Facebook, when it first starts, for some reason it always starts as only me. So once it starts showing on Facebook, I need to go and people will be able to watch it from the beginning
Hmm.
and watch me all of this, but they won't necessarily see it to start with.
Hmm.
So as soon as it starts posting live, uh, I will have to set it. But we can start talking. And why isn't this? The other thing that I've learned about all of this, I am. Uh, there it goes. Okay, it's been going for a minute. I'm going to set this to everyone, public, and now people are going to be able to see us. And I'm going to share you, and you aren't going to necessarily be able to see this,
That's cool.
but but I can. So people are going to be able to see both of us. All right. Okay, so now it's showing up. Now uh I don't know how many people are watching right now. I'm going to
Hmm.
load comments and because it's you, because it's John Mater. What do you play? What do you got? What do you got in your hands? Wait,
Man,
you-
it's your deal, dude. It's your turn. I'm playing. We're playing Skippo, aren't we? Playing Skippo? Isn't this isn't this the Skippo tournament? Oh, dude. Oh, I'm sorry, man. Have you played Skippo?
no, what is it? What is it?
Oh, it's a great card game. Oh, shoot. Well, we'll keep everybody riveted with the next show. You and I play a game of Skippo.
Okay, I'll do it. Do I get to pick a card? What tell me about Skippo?
Oh, it's it's too long to go into. It's a great game though. My wife and I were in a heated game just before this because
Uh-oh.
I have so much to do, and she was killing me, killing me, killing me, and then I played my cards just right. I played everything perfectly, and I came from way behind, and I beat her.
Uh-oh.
And so it was good, but I didn't gloat
Oh.
until now.
Till now. Yeah. She can't hear this, right? She's in the other room.
Oh yes, no, she cannot hear this.
Okay, good.
She
All
can't
right.
hear this. Oh, and I forgot, man. Am I supposed to put this on before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Forgive me.
So, well, let me ask you. Well, while we're on the phone, and we're doing this, and the whole reason this is creating a new career for me because, well, it's not career; it's just gives me something to do. Uh,
Hmm.
as I start on every one of these, the whole reason I'm doing this because I have nothing else to do. And you and I were talking the other day about not having anything to do, and the theater closing down, and the restaurants closing down that are around there. But
Yeah.
but this is what I want to know. I'm seeing Facebook posts all over the place. Stay home. Don't go out. Don't fucking go out. You stupid shit. And then yet, if I go outside and I'm walking down the street, what's wrong with that? I don't. I'm kind of torn. I don't understand. I go out. I go on this bike ride, and there's all kinds of people out. They aren't
Hmm.
interacting with each other. They're just out walking, getting fresh air, which I'm thinking is great. People are doing these things great now on with their families, and they're out doing family outings, just walking around the block, and yet people are posting, "Don't do that."
Yeah.
I'm kind of baffled. I mean, are we not are we supposed to stay locked in our house with our things over our face?
Am I supposed to be wearing clothes during this? Can
No,
people see
no,
me?
they can see you. As
They
a
can
matter
see
of
me.
fact,
Oh, okay, cool.
do you want
Uh,
me to give you a moment so you can get undressed?
well, I'm just saying, because we could get this thing going where people. people send in their credit card numbers, and
And we
it's
do
kind
a
of like
show.
yes, sort of a special request format, if you will,
Okay. So
because
we're
you
not
know.
actually going to talk about music. We're not going to talk about your drumming at Hamilton and all of that kind. We're just going to we're going to talk like a couple of guys on breaks on a gig, right? I mean, yeah.
Well, it could be all the above.
Oh, okay.
But if if people want to get into our special request uh, hot cams, then they're
Okay.
gonna have to like I think maybe like a subscription thing we could do, or you can do like a one-time deal of you get a couple of requests, and that's a certain price point. But then we can upsell into this subscription platform, as everybody does.
I like
And
it. You know, we might be able to make some dough off of this thing.
dude,
I mean,
I'm just saying, man.
okay,
You
so you
know,
know Bob McCarsky, right? Do you
yes,
remember Bob McCarsky?
of course I remember Bob.
Okay. All right. So talking to Jimmy Sanchez, and Jimmy saying, did you hear about Bob?" And I go like, "No, what about Bob?" He's not really playing anymore, and he started a couple of Thai massage parlors in Bangkok or Singapore, wherever he is, and he was making bank so much money that he was able to stop working playing music. And right now that business is not really happening, but I thought, brilliant idea. So, you know,
Okay.
all right, so wait a minute now, wait. So now there's one thing that you
All I was talking about were clown trick. I mean, like magic tricks. I wasn't talking about immediately you assumed,
oh
Jeff. So I thought this was a family show. I'm so
well, not
disappointed in you.
necessarily. This, we don't know who's watching, and
Wow.
it's
You
okay.
know, what did I start off with? Skippo. A nice family friendly card game. And how did we go from that to
uh Thai massage
Thailand
parlor.
brothels?
Okay, so
Wow. It
oh,
wasn't me. I'm just saying,
okay, I
everybody.
that's right.
Okay.
You put the shot up, and then I stuffed it in. I just stuffed it right in.
Okay. Getting back to your original point about being outside and all of that. So that's a really good point because Wendy and I had gone out on some hikes to just get some fresh air,
Right.
and we went on one hike, which is a kind of a popular hike where we live. But we thought, okay, well, it is a popular hike, but the trails are very wide, and so we figure that okay, there's probably not going to be a lot of people out because of what's going on. The trails are very wide, and we will also walk in single file formation, so we give people the maximum amount of space between us, well over 6 feet. So what we found was uh, people were out walking around close to each other, and it seemed to me that there were friends who were bike riding together who were friends. They didn't strike me as they didn't look like they were family members who lived in the same house. Um, and uh, and so there were like groups of mountain bike riders, like 5 or 6 mountain bike riders riding really close together.
Mm,
And then there were all kinds of people just walking around on the trail, and we would pass people who would be four or five people wide on the trail. And
mhm.
so here we are trying to like move over and be
Respectful.
respectful and conscientious of regarding the 6 foot minimal space.
Yeah.
So we were the only ones. We saw a lot of people, so much so that we ended up turning around and leaving because the as you got closer to the end of the trail, the trail got narrower, and um, so we just thought, okay, well, people just really aren't. aren't minding any sort of rules here, and so we turned around and came back. But there was one point where there was a bit of a log jam of people because you had to cross over some water, and so we got way out of the way. We went on the upside of the trail, like up this hill, because we just wanted to wait it out until a lot of people went by, and we could do our thing without getting too close to people. Well, these couple little kids started making a beeline straight towards us, and uh, my wife spoke to them and said, "Excuse me, you need to be at least 6 feet away from us." And the kids stopped, and Wendy got the stink eye from the mom.
Are you kidding? See?
And so my point here, Jeff, is you can't fix stupid,
Right.
but you can stay away from stupid people.
Right.
And so when you're walking around the neighborhood or whatever, there's not as many people walking around most likely.
Hmm.
The other thing is, you live on a fairly quiet street. I live on a quiet street, so if I need to walk in the middle of the street, I'll get in the middle of the street. I don't care.
Right.
So, but you don't have that option when you're on a trail, which is unfortunately because of this. This is why they are closing all of the parks in the
I
San
heard
Francisco
that.
Bay
Yeah.
Area
That
because people are idiots.
and are
So
they closing them down here too? They're closing them.
I'm sure that that's next to follow. I can't. I can only check out the latest news so much. Like
Yeah.
it's all really discouraging, depressing, and I don't need to like obsess over it.
Right.
So I'm kind of limiting my on time um, thing, and so I actually have to go, Jeff. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Nothing personal.
I
No,
always knew you really didn't like me, man.
that's nothing personal, really. Well, it could be.
Well, it could be.
Maybe there's a small part of it that's personal, but the rest of it is strictly about the personal thing.
Well, I told you, and this is interesting because I told you in front of your wife, and I said, when I saw John play for the first time, I hated him. I was like angry. And you looked at me sort of hurt, like, why would you hate me? And I said, because you were so fucking good.
Oh,
And it just made me mad, that every now and then you'll sit and you'll see somebody like, damn, that guy is so good. That's from the perspective.
well, thank you. I really appreciate that, especially coming from another drummer. I don't take those compliments lightly, and so I really, really appreciate that. But I also will say that you had always such incredible players in the band that everybody made me sound really good. So right out of the gate, so I really what struck me was everybody played everything right, like just like all like there's so many guys that just kind of gloss over the specifics of a great song. And
Right.
that's what I really, really loved about um, playing like private parties, weddings, whatever. I got to play all of the best songs from a variety of different eras, and it was such a great education on how to really play that stuff. But
Mhm.
I was the guy who would teach all of my students how to play these songs. I've got stacks and stacks and stacks of note for note transcriptions from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up. And so I just felt, well, if I'm going to teach a student how to play these songs, I want them to sound very convincing. And I liked it because I was getting paid to do research.
Mm.
So it was kind of a double benefit for me to do that. But then I would get to these private parties, and somebody would call out a tune, and I would be intimately acquainted with the drum part because I didn't download a transcription offline. I went by, I transcribed everything note for note myself, and that was a huge part of my education.
Can I interject a story about you? And this was years after you worked we for me in my band, and when I saw you playing with SRO and all that stuff. And I had moved to LA and I was doing sound, and I was hired by a band from LA to do sound in San Francisco, and you
Hmm.
came and played drums. And I
Hmm.
was talking to you the day ahead of time. You said, dude, I've only got a certain amount of time because I got to learn all these tunes. And this is what I know about you and your work ethic is not only do you take the time to acquaint yourself with the tunes, but if it's a tune you don't know and you've got a gig with that band the next night, you would sit up all night making sure you learn those parts exactly right, no matter how much work, how much time it took you to learn them. So when you hit the gig, you played with that band exactly right. And I really admire that because a lot of drummers will just go, "Oh, it's a gig. I'll just play. I'll play the whatever groove I can play on the song." But not you. You would sit up all night learning all the tunes exactly the way the band wanted you to play them, and that's just sort of your work ethic and what you were just describing to me. And that was I learned that about you like after years after I had known you, and I was like, man, that guy really works to get his gigs and make sure he's right on the gigs.
It's just more fun. I really, it's just more fun for me when I know when I'm playing the right stuff, and I and I feel it on the bandstand. Like I feel all the parts come together, and it has that thing that it's supposed to have, which is why it was a hit. Like, I just I don't understand when guys try to reinvent the wheel. Like there's a reason why that performance was a hit song, and so there's a reason why I'm getting paid to play that hit song at this function. It's because of that performance. That's a big part of it.
Mm.
And I never forget going to see Tom Petty, and and Steve Ferroni was playing drums. And what I so appreciated about that was Steve learned all all of the original drum parts. He was
Mm.
playing all the original fills, and uh, it's like you're at a French restaurant and you order your favorite dish with your favorite wine. Your taste buds are ready for that, and then they serve you something that's different,
Mm.
and it's a disappointment. It's a disappointment.
Right.
So, and but that's just me, and that's my sense of of musicality. Now I know other people who really love how a band might completely reinvent a song live, and but for me, I have such an emotional relationship with that particular performance that it doesn't have to be everything, doesn't have to sound like the record, but it's if you get 70% and then you take some artistic liberties with the rest of it, like extending the guitar solo or adding a breakdown, that's cool. But I just feel like there's fundamental things for me that have to be there for me to feel satisfied.
Like the basic
That's
groove, basically how the guy played it, played his hi hat, played the kick drum, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but then you get more into it, like you can really get into like knowing a little bit more about the drummers and how they played those songs. So for example, I did a sit-in. I did a jam session here at the Whiskey
I
in
saw that.
Hollywood, and it was a Rush night.
Yeah.
And I never, I don't own a single Rush. uh, record. Oh, I own one Rush CD now, but as growing up as a kid, that really wasn't where I lived musically. It's
Hmm.
cool when you get older. As we get older, what I love is like with food, like your talent tends to broaden, and with art, and so musically, there's things that I really appreciate now that I just couldn't hear when I was young, and so and in learning some of this Rush stuff, man, it was just like a bit of an awakening. Like, my friends had moving pictures when that record came out, and I thought that is such an amazing recording. Like sonically, it sounds incredible, and those guys play so incredibly well as an ensemble. It's super super tight. But I think at the time I was into like Earth, Wind and Fire.
Mm.
I was, hearing that was just what resonated with me at that time in my life. So I kind of moved in that direction. But more to my point was I, I I picked one of the hardest songs in the list that I was given, and it had, and I mean, like 12 time changes in the
Right.
song, and there's some drum soloing over some time changes, and I knew that there were going to be a lot of die-hard Rush fans in the audience, and this was, of course, right after Neil Peart had passed away,
Hmm.
and so there's a lot of drummers going to be in the audience too, and I wanted to learn all of his stuff to honor him um, and to make it a special thing for like the all the drummers in the audience that were there to see it, and that was really intense because there's no rehearsals. You don't, you might meet everybody before you go on stage, maybe, and you get on stage and you count it off, and that's it. And you're not playing your drum set, and you never played with
No.
these guys before, and all you're doing is just praying that everybody did their homework, and everybody did, and it was it
Oh
was it was really awesome. But I wrote it down like note for note, and that weekend I had a bunch of other shows and recording sessions, but I was getting up at 4:35 in the morning every day to write all that stuff out note for note and to learn it. And what was also great is I just took it a step further and I went on YouTube and I found live footage of them playing, and so I could see, oh, this is the sticking that he's using. These are
yeah.
the drums that he's hitting, and just get deeper and deeper into it. Now, a bunch of people could say, well, why would I do all that work for literally 3.5 minutes on stage? Why would I do that? And so um, the reasons are, as I just stated, to make it a special moment for everybody and to honor Neil and honor the music, but it
Mhm.
also serves me really well. Like if I do all of that stuff, there is an investment, there's a return on the investment.
Right.
There's always a return on the investment. And I think that this is where a lot of players get into this, fall into the slippery slope. Like, um, I'm only gonna apply myself so much because this situation is, it doesn't appear that it's going to pay a dividend, a return on my investment. So I'm only going to put X amount of work in. As with guys musicians who would say, well, it's only a wedding gig, so I'm only gonna,
Hmm.
like, well, if this is all you have, why not make it great? You you are in such a powerful position. And I definitely went through that,
Hmm.
where I used to think, oh, it's just I'm just a wedding drummer, or this is just a wedding, it's not the real thing. And what musicians don't realize is everybody is seeing you, and everybody is paying attention.
Hmm.
So if you just try to make it musically a special event, then word's going to get out, and you're going to keep moving up the food chain, as I did. I was just playing weddings um, and and then I was playing in a big corporate band, and then all of a sudden, I started getting calls for more and more prestigious things, and I had no idea that all I wanted to do was just be a good wedding drummer, quite frankly, because I just thought that, well, it's I was getting paid good money, that was the other thing. Like, why have an attitude? Like, you're getting paid really, really good money to do this, and your time is being respected. And I thought, man, this is pretty darn cool. I get to play great music with great musicians and get paid well. Like, why would you have an attitude about that? But as musicians, like we can fall into this thing of like, okay, well, playing a wedding or something is not a very prestigious thing, eh, or we wanted so much else from our career. And but I feel like if you are able to get your attitude together first, get your playing really great, the other stuff is going to happen.
I
So
just want to just jump in for a second. I want to say I believe the main reason you have been so successful is because of your work ethic and your the payoff for you has been I'm going to work really hard at this and make this right regardless of what the gig is. And the pursuit of just being good and being really and work hard at making everything right and having that work ethic has proven to be one of the main reasons why you've been successful. I think.
correct.
And and the attitude of just making it right regardless of what the pay is. You didn't do it because you thought you were going to make a lot of money at it. You did it because it was the right thing to do. And I think that the payoff for
Yeah.
that has been the fruits of your success, especially. And you've said a couple of things, and I just want to throw this out there. Having said all of this stuff about learning the grooves and the Neil Part thing, uh, how was it playing with John Fogerty?
Oh man, awesome, awesome.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
and showing and being and honoring that music and those grooves, which are the other end of the spectrum compared to Rush,
Yes. Yeah.
in a way.
Absolutely. So my first concert that I went to, I was 7 years old, and it was Creedence at the Oakland Coliseum.
Man,
And I had been playing drums for a couple of years by that time, and yeah, it was amazing. So Booker T, Booker T and the MGs opened the show, and um, and then it was Creedence, and so fortunately, I got to play with Booker. I played in Booker's band for about a year,
hmm
and then fast forward a few years, and I'm playing a show down in Los Angeles with Carl Verheyen, great guitar player from Supertramp. We were playing at a club here, um, and I had learned that Julie Fogerty was in the audience. And so a mutual friend of mine, a friend of ours, had asked me to drop by their table and introduce myself in between sets. And so I did. And she was very, very nice. And she said, I'm really enjoying your playing, and I hope you don't mind. I took some footage to play for my husband John, and and I said, no, I don't mind one bit. And so
right? Yeah,
and
no.
I got in the car after the gig, and I just thought, okay, well, this is why I moved to LA. So I
Mhm.
moved to Los Angeles for these things. Like, I'd been on stage, I toured opening for the Who. I I played in Booker's band up in the Bay Area. I did really some cool things, but I really wanted to be the drummer in the headlining band playing an arena tour.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I moved. And I got in my car after that show that night, and I thought, I'm good. If nothing happens because of this, if I don't hear from John Fogerty, I'm totally fine because somebody thought enough of my playing in Los Angeles to mention to Julie Fogerty, you have to come out and hear this drummer. And I just thought,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I'm
Right.
I'm good. If that's happening already, then I must be doing something right, and I just need to keep on doing that. Well, a few days later, I got called and invited to go play with John Fogerty at his home studio, and it was amazing. So I I made a lot of mistakes in um, some other big auditions in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
actually there's an article on that exact subject topic in Drum Magazine that's out right now, and so I just made sure not to make those same mistakes, and so I showed up and and we chatted a little bit, and he's from the Bay Area, and I did a little bit of research on him and through Wikipedia, and I found out that he wrote Green River about a place called Puda Creek in the Bay Area, and it's a little fishing hole just above and below Lake Berryessa.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, well, let's try Green River. And I said, oh, Green River, you wrote that song about Puda Creek. And his eyes got really big, and he
Right.
said, yeah. He said, well, yeah, I did. He said, my family used to go on vacation there when I was a kid. And I said, I used to go fishing in Puda Creek. And it was just a thing that I wasn't trying to score any points or anything. It was just like, it was really cool that he wrote this song about this place that I had gone fishing at because I love to go fishing and I love to be outdoors. And so and that led into a conversation about other places in the Bay Area, Leo's Music, where I used to work, and where he bought one of his guitars that he still uses to this day. And it was just, auditions are kind of like going out on a date. So in that, you just want to see if you have chemistry, um, musically as well as socially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and many guys will tell you that the social part of it is just as important because you're going to be spending more time on a bus or on a plane or in a van than you are going to be on stage. And so you want who's ever hiring you wants to make sure that there's a gel on that level too. So it was nice because it was just so easy. I wasn't trying too hard. I'd done that before too, where I tried way too hard at an audition. But when we sat down and he went into the intro to Green River, I just got goosebumps. I get goosebumps now just talking about it because when when you play with a famous singer or a famous instrumentalist, or in this case both, when he started to play his guitar, it's you immediately know that sound, and his sound is right here in his fingertips. It's like hearing your mom call, or a relative that you know very well, or your son or your daughter. They call you, and as soon as they say hello, you know exactly who it is.
Right.
And I feel like with many of these musicians, it's the same thing. So as soon as he started playing the intro to Green River, I just thought, oh my God, that's the sound. That's not somebody trying to sound like John Fogerty. That's John Fogerty. And then we started playing, and he started singing, and then I went, oh my God, that's John Fogerty, singing like John Fogerty and playing like John Fogerty.
Right.
So yeah, man, it's been awesome. I have hopefully Hamilton is going to resume here at the Pantages in Los Angeles at some point. But I also I will be taking a little bit of time off here and there because I have hopefully a bunch of dates booked with John. Now, the great um, uh, Kenny Aronoff
Mm,
is his regular drummer, but Kenny's busy doing a bunch of other things. As we all know, he's um, very much in demand. So
and I what for me, I'm just listening to you talk as a drummer, and I'm going to be in the same company with that guy.
yeah, that's
I'm going,
very flattering.
dude. Yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very flattering. Yeah.
Mm, So continue. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here. I'm listening as a drummer. If I was a student and if there were students and people, kids listening, they would be getting so much information from everything that you're saying about socializing with the person you're auditioning for and different
Hmm.
things in work ethic and everything. But then I'd also be sitting as I am in awe of since you've moved down here and the people you've met and started working with and the things that you're doing, and I sit here and go like, holy shit, dude. you know it's like you're right there with the best of them you know
Man, it's yeah, it's a dream come true, and it was a big move coming down here, being a third generation Oakland guy,
mm,
leaving all of that, and we had a beautiful home up there. And but I'll tell you though, when I stepped out on stage with John Fogerty, I just
right,
went, yeah, it was worth it.
right. You gotta pay to get and I'm thinking about your playing too, and there's a in how you play and your feel, and it's raw and organic, and that seems to be really it would fit John Fogerty because if I'm listening to his music and that it's sort of raw and organic feeling, right? And
Very
that
much so.
and that's kind of where you come from. And I'll never forget. I went to see you play Hamilton. The night I went 2 nights in a row. And the first night I sat in the audience and I was like, "Damn, it sounds good, but where's John's groove?" And 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 I've talked with a lot of people, and the front of house designer and the sound designer and all those people, they set it specifically to be a certain sound and it sounds sonically amazing. However, if you're a drummer and I want to feel you and how you play, I'm never going to really feel that in the show. And then the next night I came back and I sat behind you and felt you play, and it was like, oh my god, there's it was such a blast because I was feeling you. It was like,
Yeah.
man. And I just was thinking how much, well, I'm thinking from my own perspective, how much better it would be if some of that were able to come through in the show. But the producers absolutely don't want it to be that way. They want it to sound and be a certain specific way, and that's just the way it's going to be. But back to the point of how you feel and how you play is just such an organic kind of it's it you it's not that precise thing that I'm amazed that you actually do that show because that's such a precision kind of thing, and yet it's not the organic feel that I know you are. Am I making sense?
Yeah, so I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did so if I'm not mistaken, so when you watched in the drum room with me play the show,
Hmm.
did it did you feel like it had that organic thing
Yes.
or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's all right, good. All right. So yeah, I think and I think that's the reason why they they like the way that I play that show because it's raw. Like it's like really emotional and super raw, and I try to bring that every night. Um, but yeah, it's hard to get that to maybe translate and address all the other issues, which, for example, it's all about the vocals, right? Like, just so
Right.
for these musicals, it's all about the vocals in general. And it's even more of a challenge in this show because there are so many syllables going by you
Oh my God.
so fast,
Right.
and everything is so rhythmically complex that, rightfully so. Like, if it were all, and given the nature of the acoustics in these theaters, it's,
Yeah.
it's, there's got to be, something's got to give. And they're it's about, yeah, it's about the lyrics, man, and I appreciate that. but
Yeah.
but I think I get hired because the cast feels me,
Right.
the conductor feels me, and the orchestra feels me.
So, well, I don't misunderstand me. It's not that you don't have the feeling. It's just not as intense from
Yeah.
where I'm sitting because I'm listening from a different perspective than the average listener, right? So
Right.
I'm thinking, John would dig in a little bit deeper than what I'm hearing it. Just maybe sonically, maybe the snare drum or something.
Hmm.
And I'm it feels great, but I'm just thinking of just a little bit more of this and that, and I know John would be doing this. And when I sat next to you, you absolutely were doing that.
Right.
But
Right.
sonically sitting in the middle of the theater, those people aren't necessarily hearing it, and they don't know. But it
Right.
was, if I were mixing it and I knew you, I might push the snare drum up a little bit or kick, heck with the singers. Let's make this thing rock. And then I'd lose the gig. You're like, damn it, get out.
Well, and it's very interesting that you say that. It's also, there's a perspective issue with some theater patrons who aren't even used to that much drums, because people have actually complained,
Oh,
patrons have actually complained that the drums were too loud in the mix.
mm-hmm.
Those are patrons, but all my musician friends who come to the show, they go,
Same,
could
same
have
thing as
there
me,
could have
right?
been a little bit more junk in the trunk in that mix, man.
Right, right.
But it's, and it also depends on where you are in the theater as well. Like, I think if you were, I think if you're sat with the engineer, the back at the front of house console, I think that I think it would sound maybe a little bit better. But I think that show would sound best if it were in Las Vegas and they had,
Mhm.
the speakers right here,
Right.
because it's that kind of show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you'd be able to get all the definition. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
I
tough
never
show,
was,
man. I wouldn't want to mix that show. It's a tough show to mix. Ooh,
you
there's a
know,
lot going on.
my daughter sent me a couple of YouTube videos of the the front of house and the A2 in San Francisco, where a guy
Mhm.
came up and asked them about how they mixed the show. And of course, it was great for the novice, but I so wanted to dig in deeper. Like, okay, so I see you're bringing up those faders for those singers, right?
Mhm.
And but okay, who's in that mix? Who's it, and how? There's a lot more depth I wanted to go into, but no, it's pretty intense when I was watching because of the back and forth lines and the way they mix. They never mute. And the minute somebody's not talking, they always bring the fader down, right? So mixing and I was watching, and he's reading the lines, and it's like there's three or four people going back and forth, and those his fingers are moving up and down, like this. I'm like, holy, that's, and it's the whole show. It's the whole show going like that, man. I'm like,
3 hours. Three
right,
hours. Yeah.
right.
And then there's days where you got two shows where you're mixing like that for 6 hours.
Oh man, yeah. When I first watched my daughter do Chicago, it's a similar thing. It's not as fast back and forth because of Hamilton's thing, and I have so much I admire that kind of front of house mixing. I'm like, but just give me a band. I can sit and listen to the song and just bring the snare up a little bit. Just relax. I don't want to do this. Come on, man. That's just, you mean I got to pay attention the whole time?
I know,
Oh,
man.
it is. That is rough.
And I'm
Yeah.
playing 5 different snare drums in that show.
Right. Oh my
And
God.
if I don't play the right one, like everybody knows, if I don't play the right one,
Okay, so let me
because
ask you.
they're mixing that too. You know, they're mixing it
Right.
up and down. The snare faders getting the right effect on that snare drum at this right hit. Like
I think he said
it's
he
so
had like
deep.
20, 18 or 20 mics on the drums. I forget, but I mean, there's a lot,
Yeah, there's a lot.
so, but this is one thing that I wanted to ask you though too, because uh, I know people had done this before, but I think it really became prevalent in Hamilton is sticking the hi-hat cymbal on one of the snares and then doing a cross stick over the hat.
Oh yeah, putting a like a splash cymbal. Yeah.
Right, right.
Hmm.
I hadn't seen that much before I saw you do that on
Hmm.
Hamilton, that sound. Now, when I go watch gigs and like guys that are, the hip hop guys, they're all doing that.
Yeah.
And do you think that started with Hamilton?
It, I started it actually. It's my thing. Just kidding.
That's a John Mater thing, man. Yeah.
Because I'm huge in the hip hop world, you know. So no, I think that I think that that was happening in the hip hop world before, and it was um, I think that's part of the genius that is Alex Lacamoire, the orchestrator of the show. He's got such in-depth knowledge of every instrument in the pit. Um, he's really incredible. Much of the show I play is as it was written, um, because he's so good at understanding what everybody's role is, and has such a depth of knowledge stylistically also what's going
Right.
on. So that's just a really brilliant orchestrator of knowing what to do. And there's been other shows where I've played before where I'm playing and I'm just going, okay, this orchestrator has no idea of what a
Mhm.
groove is supposed to be, and that's very clear. But Alex just hits the bullseye every single
He
time.
knows
Like
exactly how it should be.
he knows exactly how it should be, and even the string players would comment as well that oftentimes an orchestrator will not know the right voicings to use within a string quartet and how to assign those
Mhm.
voicings to who plays what. And they said he just writes beautifully,
Mhm.
just understands everybody's part. And so that's what's also fun about doing this show is that when you play everything, like even the snare drums, that's Alex picking the right snare drum sound.
And did he actually come out and sit with in the beginning? I'm guessing. Now, I talked to somebody. You gave me a number somewhere along the way when I asked them how they did their Ableton thing, and I don't sure whether it was Alex whose number you gave me, but I wonder, did he come out and sit and go through? We want all these kinds of snares and these kinds of sounds when they first did the show, when they were first doing in their previews and everything. I They had to spend time with that.
Drum set as the one in New York.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm assuming that that process must have had gone down at some point, maybe
right,
in the pre-Broadway development of the show, where they were figuring out, there's
right.
a certain texture. But I've he and I met because he was the associate conductor on Wicked,
Oh, that's
and
right.
I did the world premiere of Wicked. So he and I worked together a lot at that point, and I learned early on that man, he's got some ears. I mean,
Yeah.
he hears everything.
So I want to, I, I'm actually seeing somebody post a thing on Facebook here, and
Huh?
uh, Tom Politzer says there needs to be more sax solos.
As soon as you said Tom Politzer, I
You
knew
knew.
we were in trouble. Tom Politzer,
Yeah, he's listening in.
saxophonist extraordinaire for Tower of Power,
That would
and
be, yeah,
man, they sounded so. Tommy, you guys sounded so great at the NAMM show, man. Unbelievable, so
don't
good.
don't you think
Wow,
they sound better now than
fantastic.
they have for a long time? I mean, they've always sounded good, but the consistency of the band right now, because they've been together. I mean, and with Marcus, the new singer.
Hmm.
Oh, dude.
On fire, on fire. That
Yeah,
this current lineup, there's just a lot of magic chemistry there.
absolutely, absolutely.
Killing,
Yeah,
killing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
so good.
and we've talked about how many different styles you play. The Carl Verheyen,
Hmm.
that is completely different style. John Fogerty, Hamilton, and then
Hmm.
the first you mentioned that you kind of grew up in the funk world or Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I want to say
Hmm.
that was the first time I saw you play. The very first thing you played was when you remember when SRO used to open. You'd open with that fanfare, that Earth, Wind,
Oh,
and Fire fanfare,
uh-huh.
right? And that was the first thing I heard you play. I'm like, what the hell?
That's what jam right there, boy.
It was, man. And you guys were the groove was fat with you and Dwayne,
Yeah,
and
Dwayne's
so
so awesome.
right. So
Yeah.
stylistically, uh, I think another reason why you work so much is because you can wear so many hats and dig into so many different styles and grooves. I mean, how different is Hamilton from Carl to Carl and then John Fogerty?
Yeah.
I mean,
And then Wicked, which is like
Wicked.
super legit. Uh, but then the bass player for Tower right now, or at least the guy who does it a lot,
Mark.
is Mark Van Wageningen, Mark VW.
Yeah.
Mark and I toured with Pee Wee Ellis and with Maceo Parker
Mm.
from the original JB horns, the James Brown
Mhm.
horns, and yeah, and Marcus. Marcus is fantastic, man. Such a great player, and it was his birthday recently, and I sent him a little happy birthday. And I said, man, I just really want to thank you for making me sound so good because I still have audio recordings of our work with Pee Wee and with
Mhm.
Maceo, and man, so much of it's about the company that you keep as well.
Right.
So, if the chemistry is right, other people will make you sound really, really good, and hopefully vice versa.
Yeah. Well,
But it's like you got to feel the quarter note in the same place. It's like some of these all-star bands you put together, like this all-star band. You think, oh, it's going to be amazing. They're all all-stars, but
mhm.
oftentimes it's not because it's not about that. It's about the chemistry, which I think Jamie Brewer was alluding to that the other night with you. I only heard just a little snippet of that.
Oh, you listened.
But I think he was talking about a band being in the studio, and part of the magic is it being a band, and the chemistry of a certain group of individuals. It's like making a stew. You got to have the right ingredients, or it doesn't have that thing.
Right there. Jamie is one guy for me when I played with him as a drummer. There would be times when I would just playing a quarter note and just boom, chap, boom, just that, and it would be him, and it would just feel so good. I didn't want to do anything else, and
Mhm.
it's interesting because I could do the exact same thing with 100 other bass players and not even get that. So it he made me sound good, because I I can just sit and go boom chuck and it just falls flat. But when I'm doing boom chuck with Jamie, it's pretty fat. He just brings that.
Yep.
And
Jamie, I mentioned that I was lucky enough to do a couple of tours opening for the Who, and I believe it was was it the first tour or the second tour? Um, Jamie was on one of those tours. He was the bass player for
with
one of those
Whispers,
tours.
with
Not
with
with the Whispers.
oh,
I was on a tour with a band with a San Francisco band. We were on tour
hmm.
opening for the Who, and Jamie was the bass player.
Oh,
Jamie was the bass player on one of the tours, and then they called us back and to do another tour with them. And I believe um, Eric Smith from the Bay Area, otherwise known as Pig Funk, he plays with Janet Jackson now.
hmm.
He was the bass player on one of those tours as well. So yeah, so lucky coming where we both come from, the Bay Area, to
Mhm.
play with so many great players, man. I mean, my God.
Yeah, uh, don't you think? And I have issues with some LA players, and not even as a drummer, but just as a guy who's just listening and doing sound. The way guys feel down here, a lot of times, like the studio guys and some of the pop bands and stuff around town have a completely different feel than that Bay Area thing, that Oakland thing that where we come from. Do you get that at all?
Well, so it's hard to say because most guys down here are not from here.
Right. Well,
So
Jim
every
and some guys like that, and Jimmy Earl, and some guys like that aren't that way, but um, maybe it's misplaced. What I'm thinking is maybe just some of the people I'm thinking of.
I think that there is a a thing like if you grow up in the South, maybe you have a certain drawl, you have a
Mhm.
certain accent. Um, Also, like cooking, food is a little different from various parts of the country or various parts of the world. I really feel like art is like that too. I think that is one of the reasons why. I think that's one of the reasons why John Fogerty likes me. I think he hears something in my playing that reminds him of the Bay Area. In fact,
Yeah.
he came over to me at the end of the audition, and I'll never forget this. And I will say that I'm still not playing that stuff right yet. It's very like there, it's like a Bay Area take on Southern music. It's got a real swampy feel to it.
Mm.
Born on the Bayou, Green
Right.
River, all of that stuff is like, like a love letter to the South, even though they came from the Bay Area. And they really captured that in the way that they play and in the way that Doug Clifford played those parts so brilliantly. I, I can't do that yet. I don't know
Mhm.
if I'll ever be able to play it quite as masterfully as he did. But John came up to me at the end of the audition and he said, John, I have to tell you, there are several points, several times this afternoon that when we were playing together, it brought me back to when I was
Mm.
19, sitting in the room with Doug and playing. And I just,
What a compliment.
man,
Wow.
that's a moment. That's a
Yeah.
moment that I'll be grinning on my deathbed because he said that to me, and I
Yeah.
told him, I said, John, I have to tell you something. I said, uh, uh, I uh, I told myself that I couldn't cry at an audition
There's no
because
crying in auditions.
because a drummer can't be crying at an audition. But I said, Ben, I said, you're making it really difficult for me right now.
Oh.
And and I said that because I told him I hadn't told him yet that that was my first concert I had gone to because I didn't want to like
Yeah.
turn into a geeky fan at an audition.
Oh,
Like
I
you
know.
kind of had to be kind of cool. But I did tell him that my he said let's do something that wasn't on your list. Let's do Susie Q. And I said, oh man, I have to tell you a story about Susie Q. That was my first favorite song. It came out in 1968. I was 5 years old and I was obsessed with that song. So yeah, I would love to do
That
that
was a
song.
great song.
Yeah, it was a great orchestrated like jam thing that I just
Yeah.
loved about it. But um, yeah, but that thing that he told me, and I think that's that X factor. Like we were drinking the same water, the same East Bay water.
Yep.
We grew up in the same area, and I think that those are those. That's that's an intangible. Like
Hmm.
you can't really quantify that, but I feel like it's a thing. And so, yeah, I think, I played with Lenny Williams, doing all the tower stuff. I was in Lenny's band for some time and we did all the tower stuff. And then, again, it's like, well, I grew up in the Bay Area. These are Bay Area guys. It's like, it's not a stretch to I think it'd be easier for me to sound like that than maybe somebody else coming in from someplace else.
Right.
So I just feel like there's a thing, but I have to say that for me, I've been really humbled being down here because, man, I mean, there's every sort of excellent flavor of musician and drummer down here
Right.
times 1,000. So
Right.
when you go out and hear somebody, that might not be the thing that's on your taste buds at the time, but but they're still really great at what they do, and given the right chemistry, it's absolute magic. So yeah, man. I mean,
You,
everybody brings something to the party, and it's just a matter of finding I think the right combination, which I love that human aspect of it. It's still about finding the right combination of people.
right. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why I get heartbroken when certain bands split up, and they'll bring in a replacer, and it's just not the same, you
Are
know?
you
It's just not the
see my
same.
shirt, man?
Are you still what what's it? Oh, animal. John, I was kind of looking forward to just talking shit with you, and especially, when you were talking about undressing, and I thought we were going to actually learn how to make some money here.
I
And,
didn't say, did I say anything about undressing at all? No, I did not say anything about undressing. What I was referring to was lessons on to be a better skippo player.
well, we
That's You're the one who went that way.
I'm the guy. I know. Okay, so one last thing, and I've said this on one of my podcasts, or this isn't a podcast, but one of my little interviews is unfortunately I am the guy that is always talking shit. Unfortunately, I don't know how to not do that. I don't know how to keep my mouth shut and not take it there. And testament to that was, and I told this story the other day, a guy hired me on this gig. I showed up, and a bunch of guys come together, and here's a piano player shows up, and he goes, "Oh, I remember you." And I go, "Yeah, I kind of." He goes, "You were the guy that was talking shit all day long, and you never shut up." And I go, "Okay, yeah, yeah, that was me."
You were born to have a podcast, man.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is this is not a podcast, but it is live, and people have actually watched. Oh, there's been a few comments, and especially Tom said, "Thank you for mentioning him." So yeah, and it's probably time. Is the tinkle of the piano? Is that from the wife saying it's time to get out?
No,
Is that me?
no,
Am I hearing things?
no, no. That's her, but
No.
we're good.
Well, we've been talking for an hour now. I got to tell you, it's been really fascinating because I've been able to
Good.
talk to you about a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's been almost like a modern drummer interview.
Well,
Or
cool.
and no shit, we didn't really talk about, all the coronavirus and stuff, which is actually good. Somebody said, talk about coronavirus.
Oh, please. No.
All right, John, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to
Okay,
thank you
buddy.
and tell
Pleasure.
Wendy hello for me. And
Okay.
thank you for spending some time with me. And I really appreciate you giving me hope that I actually can maybe get a new career in Thai massage parlors.
A lot of potential.
All right, John.
There's
Thank.
a lot of potential there, man.
All right.
For a guy who talks a lot of shit.
All right. All
Okay,
right,
buddy.
John. Bye.
Be well. Bye bye.
All right. I'm signing off, everybody. Thank you for watching and tuning in. All right.